All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks. My key games for this weekend in the world of college football. And I want to start off with a big one tomorrow night in the Pac 12 in Seattle, as you're going to have the 23rd ranked Oregon State Beavers traveling to take on the Washington Huskies. Now, Washington comes into this game favored by 2.5 points, 4.5 points, excuse me. Both of these teams are 6-2, 3-2 within the Pac-12, and the loser is definitely going to be fighting an uphill battle in regards to making the Pac-12 championship game. Now, for Oregon State, quarterback Chance Nolan, what's his availability going to be? He's missed time with a concussion. And of course, Oregon State needs all hands on deck in this game if they're going to go out there and get the road win. Running back Damian Martinez is going to have a big impact for this Oregon State offense in order for them to go on the road and pull out the dub. No pun intended right there with that, but I'm looking at Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr. The former Indiana quarterback has been solid and steady throughout the year for this Washington offense, and I think he's going to continue to do that tomorrow night. I expect a big game for wide receiver Rome Odunze in this contest, and then I look at this Huskies defense. They've had 25 team sacks this season, and they have the ability to get after opposing quarterbacks. Rain is expected tomorrow night in Seattle, which means ball security is going to be more important than ever. But I'm going to take the UW, to take care of their business at home tomorrow with the 34-20 win. Now, moving ahead to Saturday in the Big 12, you're going to have Baylor traveling to Norman to take on Oklahoma. And for the Sooners, they come into this contest favored by 3.5 points. And I think this is going to be an excellent game due to the fact that, just like it was with the Oregon State Washington game I talked about, the loser here is all but done in regards to getting to the Big 12 title game. For Baylor to go on the road and get the win, they're going to have to rely on quarterback Blake Shapen, as well as their running game with running back Richard Reese. Now, this Baylor defense has forced 9 interceptions. And can they make Oklahoma quarterback Dylan Gabriel uncomfortable tomorrow, or Saturday rather? That's going to be important. The Sooners team, after that 3-game losing streak, they look like they're getting into a rhythm again. And of course, it helps to have Dylan Gabriel back from injury. You have Eric Gray at running back, and you also have Marvin Mims Jr. at wide receiver to give the Sooners offense the explosiveness that they need. Also, keep an eye out for linebacker David Ogoegbu. He has been a solid player for this Brent Venables defense all year long, and I think he could have a big game this Saturday against Baylor. This is going to be a back and forth affair throughout, nip and tuck. I think the last team to possess the football wins, and I am going to give that edge to Oklahoma at home with the 34-33 win. Now, the big one that everybody is talking about this Saturday in Athens is you're going to have the number one ranked team in the college football playoff, the Tennessee Volunteers, traveling to Athens to take on the third ranked Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia comes into this contest favored by 8 points over Tennessee. The over under on this contest is 66. So, and I think both of those teams are going to reach that mark. But with all of that said, this is a mega showdown in the SEC East. And when you think about so many great games in the SEC over the years, if only the great Vern Lundquist were still calling this game for CBS. It's one of those where you think about so many great calls that he had over the years, calling the SEC on CBS, and then even before that, calling NFL action for both TNT and CBS, and of course, even taking it a step further when he did radio for the Dallas Cowboys. But nonetheless, let's talk about this contest here. The winner more than likely is going to win the SEC East, but the loser is still going to be in a good position in regards to making the college football playoff. Now, for Tennessee, will the Volunteers keep on rolling? And we've seen Tennessee have some impressive wins this year. I think with them going on the road earlier in the season and beating Pitt out of the ACC really gave them some confidence. We saw this team hold off Florida at home, but then going on the road to beat LSU and then beating Alabama at home, this team is definitely flying high. Quarterback Hendon Hooker is definitely one of the front runners to win the Heisman this year. And I look at wide receivers Jalen Hyatt and Brew McCoy. Can they find a way to put some stress on this Georgia secondary? You go back even to last year when Georgia had that record-setting defense. One thing that they struggled with was speed, and we saw that in the SEC championship game last year against Alabama with the likes of Jamison Williams. And of course, Alabama had those injuries at the wide receiver position, and it changed a lot of things for the rematch in the national championship game. So it's going to be interesting to see if Jalen Hyatt and Brew McCoy can put some stress on that Georgia secondary. 19 picks for the Vols. Can they find a way to make Georgia quarterback Stetson Bennett a little jittery in that pocket? Because when you think about Stetson Bennett's career at Georgia, he has been calm, cool, and collected in that pocket. Overall, for Georgia, this is going to be a big test for them because just like it was last year during the regular season, Georgia really wasn't tested. So this right here is going to be their biggest test by far. Stetson Bennett, of course, he's been in his fair share of big games for the Dogs, and I expect tight end Brock Bowers as well as wide receiver Lad McConkey to see their fair share of balls in this game because Georgia last year in the first couple of years that Kirby Smart was there, it was more like 3 yards in a cloud of dust on offense. They're opening it up this season, and the Dogs can score some points with the best of them. Georgia still gets after you defensively as they have the number 13th ranked pass defense in the nation and they're fourth overall defensively, but they have to find a way with their front four to create pressure on Hendon Hooker because we saw it in the Alabama game. If you're not able to get to him back there, he is going to sit back there and pick you apart. So that's going to be very important. Now, for Tennessee to go on the road and get the win, one thing that I think that they need to do, they need to find a way to score early in order to put pressure on the Georgia defense, but then also take that crowd out of the game. That's going to be a big part of it. But you got to find a way to score. And when I say score, you got to score sevens. Put the pressure on that Georgia defense. That is going to be key. When it's all said and done, who has the edge? Of course, Georgia, because they've been there and they've done that and they've played in so many big games. But I just look at the way that Tennessee is playing right now. And if they can find a way to protect Hendon Hooker, good luck to this Georgia defense. I'm going to take the Vols on the road on Saturday by the score of 37-31. Now, on Saturday night in Death Valley, you're going to have the sixth ranked Alabama Crimson Tide traveling to take on the 10th ranked Bayou Bengals. And of course, I'm talking about the LSU Tigers. Now, Alabama comes into this contest favored by 13 and a half points. And they're still obviously in the mix and a very good position to make the college football playoff. Now, normally this contest would receive top billing on this Saturday, but it's taking a back seat and rightfully so to Tennessee, Georgia. But both of these teams are still in the mix to make the playoff. Now, we saw Alabama bounce back following their loss to Tennessee with a dominating win at home over Mississippi State. Both of these teams had last week off, so they come into this contest fresh. For Bryce Young and this offense, of course, obviously they were rolling against Tennessee, and they kept it up against Mississippi State. And this LSU front, they got to find a way to get to Bryce Young. But you look at all of the talent that he has around him, Jameer Gibbs and Jace McClellan at the running back position. And then you look at the wide receiver position with Jermaine Burton, Trayshawn Holden, and of course, Ja'Cory Brooks. Now, for Will Anderson and company defensively, they got shredded against Tennessee, and I expected them to play better against Mississippi State, and they did. For me, I have a feeling that the Tennessee loss could be like the A&M loss last year for Alabama, where we saw this team turn it up to another level, and the likes of Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, and Henry Toa can really turn it loose. Now, don't sleep with that said on LSU and Brian Kelly. This team, a lot of people wanted to write them off after that opening week loss to Florida State at the Superdome. Tennessee has bounced back. Pardon me, LSU, excuse me, has bounced back, and they've won 6 out of their last 7, with the only loss coming at home to Tennessee. But Jaden Daniels, what can he do against his Alabama defense? That's going to be important. And then, of course, you have Malik Neighbors in the passing game. He has to have a big time impact. When you think about Nick Saban going up against Brian Kelly, of course, they met before in the national championship game, and Alabama simply dominated Notre Dame. Let's see if things are going to change on Saturday night. Like I said, Alabama comes in as a 13 and a half point favorite. And with this final score, I'm going to take Alabama by 13 over LSU by the score of 37-24. Now, Saturday night in the Big 12, you're going to have the 24th ranked Texas Longhorns traveling to Manhattan to take on the 13th ranked K-State Wildcats. Texas comes into this contest favored by 2.5 points, and it's very interesting because Texas's last game was on the road at Oklahoma State and they lost. And then last week, of course, we saw Oklahoma State go to Manhattan and they got shut out. I mean, they got embarrassed uh, by this K State team. But you look at Texas, they've had the week off. You know that they're going to rely on their running game with John Robinson, but then also Quinn Ewers at quarterback, and then Xavier Worthy at wide receiver. They got to step up and make some plays. Jalen Ford at linebacker for the Horns. He's going to be important because you think about this Wildcats running game and Adrian Martinez at quarterback. What's his availability going to be? But then you still have to stop running back Deuce Vaughn. I think the bye week is going to help the Longhorns, and I think they go on the road and get the 37-34 win. And finally, on Saturday night at South Bend, you're going to have the fourth ranked Clemson Tigers traveling to take on the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Clemson comes into this contest favored by 3.5 points. And I think that Notre Dame is going to give the Tigers all that they can handle. Of course, Notre Dame is looking to derail the playoff hopes of Clemson. But for the Irish to do it, their defense has got to do their thing, most notably slow down DJU and the rest of this Clemson offense. Clemson has 22 team sacks of their own, but can they make life tough for Notre Dame quarterback Drew Pine? And you look at this Irish team overall. Fighting Irish have bounced back after that 0-2 start. We saw them get the win last week against Syracuse, and this is looking like a different team right now. Running back Audric Estime has really picked it up. And then, of course, you have a guy like tight end Michael Meyer, who is a difference maker in the passing game. J.D. Bertrand and Isaiah Foskey, coming and doing their thing defensively. They're going to make life tough for DJU. I think for Clemson, they want to score early to try to take this crowd out of the game and try to put some distance between themselves and Notre Dame. But if this game is close, the crowd is going to factor in, and I think the pressure is going to shift to Clemson's side. But I think Dabo Sweeney and his team find a way to escape South Bend with the 34-27 victory. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.